Do you really need the GreenStalk irrigation system, or can you get away with just hand watering either with a hose or with a watering can? The answer to that question is you really have to try it to believe it. Hey folks, if we haven't met before, my name is Tara. I live in Garden in the Bay Area and I am the proud owner of 15 GreenStalks, and I've also got a ton of videos, probably the most on the internet, on all kinds of GreenStalk tips, tricks, and hacks. So check out my playlist. But in the meanwhile, what do you think suits me? This one or this one? I'm thinking this one, right? I mean, the bee, you guys. So I got my first GreenStalk 5 years ago, and in the beginning I had just one GreenStalk. I got the beautiful terracotta color. I used my handy dandy watering can to water it. Contains 3 gallons roughly. That's what filled up the reservoir on the top. Everything was going good. And then suddenly, almost overnight, one GreenStalk turned into 5 GreenStalks. And then I was in trouble. I just could not keep up with the watering. So at that time, GreenStalk had just come out with their irrigation system, and I took a look at it and I decided that, hey, I've got a husband who's pretty handy with stuff around the house. He can help me DIY this. And he did. And I could not believe how it transformed the performance of my GreenStalks. They just went boom. They exploded in growth. They looked absolutely gorgeous. They did phenomenally well. I was sold. Now, the GreenStalk irrigation is not that difficult to DIY if you've got some skills in that department. I actually not just DIY'd it, I put irrigation in every single tier. Let me show you what I did. I actually made a video on it, but I'll show you real quick. So this irrigation tube, distribution tube, comes from my hose, and it connects up to my GreenStalk all the way up here. And if you look right here, I've got the little on-off valve thing here, and I've got another tube extending from here that actually runs into the individual pockets or the individual tiers, and it creates a nice little watering system throughout, so I never have to worry about the top of the soil being moist. And I will put a link to that video if you want to see exactly how I did it. I've got a complete video on whether or not you should DIY your GreenStalk irrigation, as well as all kinds of other watering and irrigation related questions. I'll put a link to that over here as well. Now, it's been a couple of years since I made that video, and I've learned a lot more since then. And today we're going to cover a few more things. I will set this up for you so you know exactly how to set it up using GreenStalk's irrigation system. I bought a few units. And I also talk about the timers. GreenStalk sells a timer, but I actually don't use that. I use something different. So I'll cover 3 different types of timers that you can consider when you're setting up the GreenStalk so that it is completely automatic. So you don't have to go turn it on and then remember to turn it off. I want your life to be as simple as possible. And then we'll cover a few more questions as well, like rotating your GreenStalk. There's a lot of options on how to do that. I'll share how I do it. And then, do you need the lids? Do you not need the lids? What about the garden lid? What about the spring lid? Which one do you need? Let's talk about that some more. There's the obvious answers that are on the GreenStalk website as to which ones to use, but there's also some not very obvious items that I do want to call out to your attention, which may make you change your mind, possibly. I know it did for me. So the instruction booklet that comes with the setup system is one of the best that I have ever read. It is extremely detailed and simple to understand, and the parts, you'll probably have more than you need, especially if you're connecting more than one GreenStalk together. And I know a lot of you bought a lot of GreenStalks at that warehouse sale, so you're probably going to need multiple of these irrigation units. So you will end up with extra parts, and that's perfectly okay. But we will set up the first one. I actually went through this guide and I did find it very, very helpful, even though I kind of could have figured it out myself. It's always nice to read the manual from page 1 all the way to the end before you start any kind of installation. There may be a few things that you may have missed that you may have to figure out the hard way and undo and redo if you don't read the manual. So as my husband says, read the frickin' manual, and I did. All right, so your GreenStalk watering system comes with a components bag, and these are all the things that are in it. We'll go through it in just a little bit. And then it also comes with 2 of these distribution tubes, and then an irrigation lid. Now, if you already have the lid, it's actually called a spring lid. If you already have the lid, then you can buy just the components bag and save a few bucks, and you'll get all of these things. You will have to buy these tubes separately, but frankly, this is just standard distribution tubing, and you can pick it up at any big box or nursery store. So, the components bag contains probably more components than you may need, but definitely enough if you're getting set up for the first time, and even if you have a leaf tier. It's got 7 of these clips that are used to clip on the tube to the GreenStalk. So if you've got a 7 tier, that's where the 7 number comes from. It's got a little spigot thing because especially if you've got multiple GreenStalks connected together, you may want to adjust the level. I've got GreenStalks of different heights, so I may want to make this a little tighter for my shorter GreenStalks and let more water flow for my taller GreenStalks. And then you've got some couplers, and then you've got this part that is used to connect to your hose. Now, I'm not going to be using this part to connect to my hose because I am not connecting it to my hose. I'm actually connecting it to my existing irrigation. So I've got a distribution tube like this that I've slit and I've pulled out a pipe from it, and I'm going to be connecting to that. So let me show you how I'm going to do that, just in case you've got that kind of setup. But if you're just connecting it to a hose, then it's really easy to just use this, and then you connect your irrigation system to it. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut this tube to the right height. Now I've got a small GreenStalk that I'm going to be attaching this to first. So the way that you measure it is from the ground all the way up to the top of the top pocket is where you're going to cut it. Now this cuts really easily with anything like a scissors, but I've got a really cool cutter because I'm kind of cool that way. Also, I set up irrigation all over my yard, so this thing comes in really handy. But yeah, the reason you want to measure from the ground is because if you're using a mover or a spinner or something, you want to take that height into consideration as well. Now, I am going to go just a tad bit taller, and I will tell you why in just a moment. Now, you may say, hey, but then the tube is not going to reach all the way to that irrigation spout on the lid. But haha, you forgot. There is a little faucet thingy, on-off thingy that you also add over here that is going to contribute to the height. So yeah, just go all the way to the top of the pocket. You would cut it here just like that. Now let's attach these guys to the top. This is what's going to drip the water into the top. So just screw this on. And then this one, you're going to kind of loosen this over here, push the tubing in. Now, you may want to wiggle it a little to get it in here, or there are a couple of ways if it's like really stiff or you just don't have the hand strength. You can actually take a nice hot thing of water and then dip this hose for just a little bit, maybe 30 seconds or so in the water. That loosens it up quite a bit, makes it nice and flexible. I've actually got a heat gun because, again, I'm kind of cool that way. Plus, my husband's a Ryobi freak, and he buys every single Ryobi product that's out in the market. It's nice and tight. Make sure the tight thing on the top is tight as well. There we go. Now I've got this outlet that's coming from my distribution pipe, and I'm going to be using this T-joint over here to connect to this one, the same way as I did that top one. Got to wiggle it in here. I might have to use my heat gun. Let me get it. Yeah, these older tubes tend to get a little bit stiffer. So warm it up just ever so slightly. You can actually use a hairdryer as well if you've got an electric outlet nearby. And a little bit of force, and it goes right in. And now all I need to do is tighten it like I did the other one. Now the other end of this T is going to go to my other GreenStalk, and then the vertical part of the T is what I'm going to pull up to the top of this tall Inventor's Bundle GreenStalk. So let's go ahead and fit this. So this length, the original length, should fit a 7-tier leaf or an Inventor's Bundle. It is long enough to do that. All right, all set. Let's connect it at the top. So let me teach you that little irrigation trick real quick, the way I do it. Now, it comes with these clamps, like I said, a set of 7. So you hook it on to the pocket like this. And you can put 2, or you can put 3, or you can put all 7 if you like. Choice is yours. And this is position 1. And then if you want to turn it, all you do is you unhook it, turn it around. I've got 2 more clips that I've put all the way on the other side right here. And then you put this over here, and then you're going to have to move your lid so that it is positioned right where your spout is. Now you'll notice I'm using the garden lid. That's why I needed the little extra height over there. So I leave my garden lid partially open, and this thing is positioned right on top of that leaf opening. So that's how simple it is to turn it. So no need to do anything complicated. I've seen people do things like quick connects that they would use at the bottom to unhook it, spin it, and then connect it up again. That seems like too much work for me. This is really straightforward to do. Someone was talking about building a solar appliance to automatically make it spin. So we'll see whether anyone comes up with that. But really, it's not that hard, you guys. You're spinning it maybe twice a week. At least that's how often I spin it. And this is easy enough to do. So I'm going to put it back in its original position, unhook it, spin it. Now you can actually put hooks all the way around, so you can spin it quarter turns, 1/3 turns, however you want to do it. And then turn the leaf back. All right, I went and turn on the faucet. Let's turn this on. And we have water, you guys. Let's go to the other one. And we have water here as well. Now, obviously, I need to control the amount of flow because the smaller one will flow faster. So I've got this kind of on partially on versus this one I've got fully on. And I'll have to play with this as well as the pressure from the source to make sure that I've got the right amount. But I would say a couple of minutes should be all that it takes to fill up this top reservoir. And I do a couple of minutes every day, and that's good enough to keep the soil well hydrated during my summer days. All right, we've got our irrigation set up, but it's not on timer yet, which means that every time I want to water my green stalks, I got to go turn it on. I've got to wait for, I don't know, a couple of minutes, whatever, do some other stuff, and then go and turn it off. So what really is the benefit? I might as well just have a hose. No, actually, there is a benefit. If I've got multiple green stalks connected all together through the circuit, they all get watered at once. I don't have to go to each one independently. So there is definitely benefits to having irrigation, even if you do not have a timer. But with a timer, oh my gosh, it makes it so much better. All right, so let's discuss timers. I'm going to be discussing 4 different types of timers for you, and then we will discuss the lids. Should you buy them? Should you not? Which one should you buy? Some of those pros and cons that are not necessarily in the book. So as we do that, folks, I just wanted to first remind you that I am a GreenStalk affiliate. So if you're getting value from this video, I sure would appreciate your support if you use my link, which is in the description, to buy any GreenStalk product. And that link will also get you $10 off, or you can use my code GREENLOVE10 and get $10 off your purchase of $75 or more. And if you're watching this on the Memorial Day weekend of 2026, there is a sale on irrigation systems right now, and it ends tomorrow. So hopefully you'll catch this video before then, help you make a decision. All right, let's dive into the 4 different types of timers. Now I'm going to discuss these from like the least sophisticated to the most sophisticated, and I will give you the pros and cons as well so that you can make a decision as to which one is right for you. Now we're also going to be setting up a timer for our newly installed irrigation. I'm going to describe these timers in as less technical terms as possible because I know not all of you are technical out there. So kind of bear with me and definitely ask questions in the comments if I get too technical on you and you can't quite get something that I'm trying to describe. I will be happy to describe it further in the comments or maybe in a follow-up video. Now these 4 timers are all automated, but to different degrees. You've got the very basic one, which is semi-automatic, I would say. Then you've got a battery-operated one with no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth. Then you've got one with Bluetooth, and then finally you've got one with Wi-Fi. So let's describe all of them, starting from the least sophisticated to the most sophisticated, and I'll share with you which ones you may want to use for what types of cases. So by the way, GreenStalk also sells a timer on their website. Theirs is a Bluetooth timer. That's the only one I don't have actually, because I don't use that, and I'll explain to you why it didn't make sense for me to use it. And I also do not use the semi-automatic ones because I do want my irrigation to be kind of fully automatic. But let's start with the basic one. This is your basic timer. Sorry, it's a little bit old and dirty, but it demonstrates the purpose. Basically, it's a dial. And all you want to do is, at the time that you're ready to get your GreenStalk irrigation turned on, you turn it to a number. Oops, may have broken it. There we go. You turn it to a number. So say you want it to run, I don't know, for 2 minutes. This is in 15-minute intervals over here, so it's not very accurate. Maybe there's more accurate ones that you can get out there, but this is a really cheap one. I think I got this for like $10 or something like that from Home Depot at some point. And then it will automatically run for that time that you have set it, and it'll turn off by itself when it's done. So this is really nice if you're around every day and you want to turn the irrigation for your GreenStalk on at will, and you trust yourself to be able to do it every single day if that is what is needed, or whatever days you want to turn it on. You just come, turn it on, walk away, and you have it set for the time to run according to what you put on the dial. The next level up is your battery-operated timer, no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth. And this is one actually that we're going to be using today. And it has an on-unit system for you to set the timing. So for example, you've got it right now, it's off, but you can do it either automatic or manual, so that's an option for you, but I usually do it automatic. It tells you for how long, how often, when the start time is, when the end time is, and of course you've got to set the clock because you want to be able to trigger it at a certain time of day. So the next one is the Bluetooth timer. Now, like I said, I don't have a Bluetooth timer because I have chosen not to use it. And I'll explain to you in just a minute why. But really, the purpose of the Bluetooth timer, it's the same as this battery-operated timer. The only difference being you can download an app and you can use it from your phone. And it is Bluetooth, which means you need to pair it with your phone, and you also have to be within a certain range. So usually around 100 feet or so, with no major obstacles between your phone and your irrigation unit. So there's a lot of restrictions associated with that, but it's much easier, I think, to use an app to be able to set those parameters rather than have to do it with the on-screen thing, which this battery-operated thing has. It's a little bit more complicated to do it with this. It's much easier with the phone. But I prefer to do this. I'm kind of used to it, and I think it's not worth the price difference, at least for me. As you go more and more sophisticated, the price point increases. So I just use this, and I don't worry about having to download an app, pair it with the device, pay extra money for it, and then often it doesn't work because I'm not within Bluetooth range. Just don't want to deal with all of that. I just use the on-screen timer. And then the main one that I use is the last one, which is the Wi-Fi irrigation system. Now, I don't have the Wi-Fi irrigation system over here because I've got it connected up. I'll put a picture of it on the screen. But the main thing about the Wi-Fi irrigation system is that it works with your Wi-Fi rather than Bluetooth. So there is no range issue of you walking away and not being able to communicate with your device. And doubly beneficial is that you can really program it from anywhere in the world. So you can be traveling and you can decide that you want to trigger your irrigation because you're having an extra hot day and you want another cycle to kick in. So you can actually do it from wherever you are. So that is, I think, the biggest benefit of having the Wi-Fi system. Obviously, it's more expensive as well, but I've got a lot of GreenStalks and I've got a lot of irrigation and a lot of different zones, and that's when the Wi-Fi system really is beneficial because you've got multiple zones that you need to control. So yeah, that again, pros and cons. Least sophisticated to most sophisticated also means least difficult to learn how to operate through most complicated to operate, and I guess more chances of error also. So you benefit from having a little bit of techie skills, or at least knowing someone with a little bit of techie skills if you're using the Wi-Fi system, because these systems are not yet quite perfect, and maybe there's better ones, but the price range keeps going higher and higher the more sophisticated or the higher the quality of it. So the ones that I use are from Rainpoint, and I've been fairly satisfied with them. I'll put links, Amazon links, in the description if you want to check any of them out. But the one that GreenStalk sells, like I said, is the Bluetooth timer, and it's from the company Dig, and they could change that as well, because I think it's just a partnership that they've got for a while, and it's not on sale right now during the irrigation sale. So anyway, all right, let's go set up our timer. And like I mentioned, this is the only one that is semi-automatic. In other words, you have to turn the dial to turn it off, and then it turns off by itself. But the rest of these is just set it once and forget it, and it runs on the schedule that you have set for whichever days of the week for whatever length of time. So it's pretty sweet. All right, let's go ahead and connect this up. So this thing actually comes with multiple outlet points, so you can actually have multiple GreenStalks connected to the same unit, and it's got like station 1, station 2, so you can have them on different schedules, so that's pretty cool. Or you can have, the other end go to your other irrigation systems. So connect this up here, and you do want to make sure it's nice and tight because you don't want any leaks. So I don't have my wrenches and tools over here, otherwise I'd make sure it's really, really tight. But here's the other thing is you also want to use something like this Teflon tape to prevent leaks. So I just wrap this around. It serves as kind of like a lubricant and fills all the gaps and things in the screw threads so it doesn't leak. So all you need to do is go over this 3 or 4 times, and that should do it. It's very easy to just pull and break off, and then I'm going to connect this over here. Again, nice and tight. And you do want to use some kind of plier or wrench to really tighten it. So now let me show you how to program this, because now this is something that I just got from our local Ace Hardware, and there's different models and they all have a similar type of thing, but it may be just slightly different. But I do want to show you how I do this so you can decide whether you want to use something like this, which is a little bit cheaper than the Bluetooth one. So let me bring you up close. All right, let's set this up here. So right now it's set to off. Now I've used this before, so it's got some pre-programmed things already in it, but we'll change all of those. So the first thing you want to do is you want to set the clock. So you go up to the top there. I've already set it to 6:34. That's correct. So if you want to change it, you press the button and you can change it to whatever you want, but I'm going to leave it as is. And then you want to set the next mode, which is, let me go to this one, auto or manual. Now, if I press it once, it goes to manual, so I can actually run it immediately if I want to a certain number of minutes. So I can set the minutes over here. I don't want to do that, but let's see, let me turn it off here. And then right now it's set to be in automatic mode. So now let's go to the next one, which is how often. So how often is once every day. You can actually set this for hours also. So right now it says 12 hours. I can change this to run every 6 hours if I want, or maybe every 12 hours during the hottest days of summer. But right now I'm going to be setting it to run every day. So let me go back to the day mode. So it says 1 right now. So I'm going to set that. Each time I press the button, it sets it. And then I'm going to go to the next one, which is the minutes. Whoa, 358 minutes. Definitely want to fix that. I do not want it to run for that long. So let's change it to, let's see. There we go. 3 minutes. I think that's good. So you press the button and that sets it. And then you go to the next one. The start time, right now I've got it set to 2:55 a.m. I'm going to change that to maybe be 4:55 or maybe 5 a.m. I like running it in the morning because the water in the pipes is not hot at that time, and it is a low electricity time. So let's see, 5:50 in the morning, or maybe 5 o'clock. There we go, 5 o'clock in the morning, AM, that's correct. So I press the button and that sets it. And then we're back to clock and off and auto. So right now it's on auto mode. So you can see that was a little bit cumbersome. You had to kind of mess around with those dials, old school analog style. But you know, once you get used to it, it's not that hard. However, if you want to use the Bluetooth operated one, you can put it on an app. It's just so much easier. Yes, it's going to cost you $20, $25 more, but if it's worth the convenience and if it's worth downloading an app and creating an ID and all of that stuff, if you don't mind doing all of that, then yeah, I'd say go for the Bluetooth timer. That's probably the simplest. I'm going to trigger a manual cycle over here. So I'm going to run for like 2 minutes and it's on. So if I walk over here, I see that it's flowing. That looks really good. Let's look at the top. That's flowing as well. Now you're going to have to play around with the settings, you guys. So these little faucet thingies, because you want to make sure that for the time that it's running, that this shorter GreenStalk is getting a little less water than the taller GreenStalk because it needs less. So you may have to adjust this so it is flowing a little slower. Whatever you need to do, it'll take a few days for you to get used to the rhythm. If you see a lot of water flowing out of the base of the little one, you know that you need to tighten it up a little bit, but you'll get the hang of it. All right, let's talk about the lids. So we'll talk about the intended purpose and uses, as well as what is, I've kind of found out the hard way through experience of having both these lids for a while. So I'll share that with you as well. And that's not necessarily mentioned in the book. So there's two lids, the garden lid and the spring lid. Now the spring lid is the one that comes with your irrigation system, this along with those two vertical black tubes. And the purpose of this is just to insert that little spout that goes on top for the top watering. And then this one is intended for your manual watering. So you can either stick a hose in here or you can use a watering can, fill it up, and then when you're done, you close it. So this is a little bit more expensive than this. And do you need the lids or not? That's actually a really good question. I've got a lot of oak trees dropping all kinds of debris, so I definitely need the lids. Now, you have other alternatives that you can try as well. I know the first couple of years I used those paint bags that you can get with a little elastic around it. I used those. Those are super flimsy, by the way. I think it was just a few months before they sort of just gave up and started ripping. So I wouldn't recommend those. You can get thicker, sturdier meshes, and you can use that. I used those for a couple of years as well. But then eventually I caved and I got these because I really needed them and I figured I was going to be using them for the long term. So now let's talk about some of the things that are not necessarily mentioned, but a lot of people have found out kind of the hard way, and better go into this eyes wide open, right? All right, so one of the big differences between these two lids is that this one has an opening for that spout, and this opening is available to other things as well. So for me, I always have earwigs and black widows make their way in here, and they get into the GreenStalk. They go all the way through. They go down into those little gray discs. And frankly, that's not the biggest of the problems. I've seen people that have had snakes actually get in through this and go all the way in and get stuck. And I'm not going to put pictures over here, but if you go to the GreenStalk Gardeners group, there's people that have shared their experiences. So if you live in a place where there are a lot of snakes and things, it may be something that you need to worry about is this opening. So you may want to do something about it, maybe put some kind of mesh, stick some kind of mesh over it just to prevent it. Another thing that, and this is the case probably with both lids, is that some people have them fly off. So I've not had that issue because I feel it actually fits kind of tight. Okay, it doesn't lock, but it fits pretty firmly. So my guess is either the folks who had it fly off had not really pushed it down properly and made sure that it was sitting nicely, or maybe the winds were just really, really strong and were able to whip it off the top. I don't know. Never happened to me. So that might be something that you may have to figure out if that's an issue for you. Use duct tape. I don't know what you would do. I think some people have used some kind of wire thing to tie it. They've made holes in it. I don't need to do all that, but if that's what you need to do to hold on to your lid, you may want to consider that. Now, this lid has the benefit that there is no opening. So for the ones that I've got this lid on, I've never had any issues of anything getting into it. No earwigs, no black widows, and definitely no snakes. Now for me, the other factor is it's super cute. I absolutely love the look of it. And even though I've got several GreenStalks right now that are not on irrigation, I am eventually going to get them all on irrigation. And you saw from my setup over there, it doesn't fit quite well. If you're using the GreenStalk spout that comes with the kit, it kind of just sits on the edge here. For my ones that I DIY'd, I actually have a much longer tube so I can push it in properly. But then, of course, you've got the disadvantage that this thing is going to have to stay open at all times. So I'm going to have to figure out how to put some mesh underneath this if I want to prevent the black widows and earwigs from getting in. I've heard people say that birds have built their nest as well. I guess that's when you don't run your irrigation for a long time, maybe over winter or something like that. The birds get comfortable making their nests in there. So lots of things can get into that top, nice, cozy environment because there's an opening in it, particularly for this one, or for this one if you forget to close the lid. So that's the difference between the two, and they are all on sale right now for Memorial Day. So again, if you are planning to get anything from GreenStalk, I will put a link in the description as well as my coupon code GREENLOVE10 to get you $10 off your purchase. I hope you enjoyed the video, folks. I hope you learned something new. And by the way, I will put a link to the video where I did all of those FAQs about the irrigation system. So definitely check it out. And I will also put a link to a video where I DIY'd the irrigation for every single tier. And if you are interested in doing that, definitely check out that video as well. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful gardening season. And until next time, live green and love your greens.